20, 19, 18, 17. Welcome to the Blue Hour. I'm Eric. This is Charlie. This week we're going to be talking about how we've been using ChatGPT. And since it's Halloween next week, this will probably be coming out around then. What people think is scary with AI and what we think is scary with AI. So grab your candy. Let's kick it off with like what we've been using ChatGPT for. If just so people know, if you're not a subscriber to ChatGPT Plus, we'll probably be talking almost exclusively around people who pay $20 a month to get access to Plus, which gives you the most recent model of GPT, which is called GPT-4. It also gives you access to something called advanced data analysis, where you can put spreadsheets in and ask questions specifically about that, and it can run code in the browser. Dolly 3, which is an image generation. So you can just type out words like make a pumpkin and it'll make images of pumpkins for you. And you also have access.
Great example.
Yeah. Browsing. So it can browse the internet, it has up-to-date information. And you can use plugins where there's like 1,000 third-party plugins, of which Prompt Perfect, our plugin, is one. So that's what we're talking about when we say ChatGPT, just to level the playing field there.
Also, the plug, there's also Perfect Chirp, which is a different plugin that's really for people who write tweets and want to have some sort of assistance with that. And then there's also, what do you call tweets now that it's X?
They call them posts.
Okay. So there's that for the posts on X. And then there's also Promptist, which you should explain what Promptist is, because I think it's at least equally as interesting as Prompt Perfect.
Yeah, it's basically a prompt education tool. So there's different things you can do with it. You can have it enhance a prompt for you, and that'll show you the updated prompt it'll return to you. There's feedback where if you type in a prompt, you get feedback on things you could do to improve and how well it's positioned for LLMs. There's Brainstorm, which will help you brainstorm based on a goal, how to write a prompt. And then there is, oh shit, I forgot the name of it. I think it's I forget the name of the fourth one, but it's basically it'll give you an end goal and you have to write a prompt for it and it'll give you feedback on what you wrote, which is pretty cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I just wanted to plug it because it's cool. And there are consistent subscribers every single day.
Yeah.
Most days of the week, since I've been tracking it, we have at least one new subscriber to Promptist, which is cool.
There you go.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what plugins are. Also you can if you pay for ChatGPT Plus, you get access to Voice Assistant, which is like you speak to an AI and it speaks back in a voice that sounds like a human.
Yeah,
That's
amazing.
ChatGPT, yeah. But what are you using it for? What's interesting to you?
There's so many use cases, right? And we use it constantly. We've explained so many of them. But one of the ones that I used since last week is our buddy had a box of quarters, and it was like a toolbox of quarters, and we wanted to understand how many quarters were inside. And so we sent 4 images, one with the height with it. So I had a measuring tape and I measured the height of the box, the width of the box, and then the length of the box, each with a measuring tape so that I could then discern. I didn't explain how long or tall or wide it is. I just sent those 3 photos. And then also a photo to just give context on how full the box was of quarters. And there were only quarters in there. It wasn't dimes and nickels or anything else. And we wanted to know how many quarters are in there. It had suggested that we weigh the box for higher accuracy, since there are so many different ways that it could actually be stacked. Like if it's perfectly stacked, it said it could be 10 grand of quarters. And we assumed instead, it actually assumed itself. It then subsequently had a line where it had said if it was 100% efficiency in terms of the stacking, it would be 10,000-ish or whatever it might be, the exact amount it had. But it said we understand it's easy to assume that it's not going to be perfectly stacked actually, so we'll assume a 75% efficiency. And then I had written back and said, let's actually assume a 30% efficiency because I have no idea really how many, and I'd like to lowball and guess at a low number. And even then, it was over $1,000. So that was exciting. I wanted desperately to go to the bank and get those quarter rolls. I almost just started counting, but he's like, we can't count without the rolls. So it doesn't make sense to start counting. So we didn't actually determine how many there are. I guess that it could be wrong, but that was very interesting because that was a use case of the image tool that we had mentioned in last week's episode, which was brand new for the two of us that day. We hadn't really used it much. I've used it a few other times using that tool for, I didn't use it for the router, which I had mentioned last week, but I use it to identify a tree or like a shrub. Which is kind of random. We were doing some yard work, and I was curious about whether or not, like how big the tree was going to grow, whether or not it was actually worth keeping around. And then, yeah, yeah. What about you?
This week, most recently, the browsing with Bing, I used, my partner was looking for jobs, and somebody said you should look for temp agencies that do remote work. And she like couldn't find any really. So I just went to browsing with Bing and said, can you pull the top remote temp agencies? And then, 10 seconds we had three, and I was like, here's the links. I
That's
was like,
amazing.
task where you normally have to go through and like try and sift through a bunch of ads and things that aren't ideal. We were able to identify three places to go to almost instantly, which is
Wow,
crazy.
that's awesome.
Yeah, I think there's the internet's gotten really messy along with like search consoles, like going into Google and searching for something. It's not always easy to get the right answer or the best answer. And AI freaking slaps for it. It's great.
That's an understatement.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. That's just such a funny term. Another example of using it was I was driving in the pouring rain after a red eye, so I was tired, and I was concerned that there are dangers in driving on the road when it's pouring rain that I'm unaware of, and I wanted to make sure I was driving safely. Or like, I guess that the issue was more that there were cars going 40 miles an hour in the middle lane, which is well below our speed limit in New York State, which is 55. And so I was thinking, like, if I'm going 60, which is obviously above the speed limit, but like keeping up with traffic, and I come up on somebody going 40, it's really dangerous. So I was thinking to myself, maybe I should reframe and I should drive 40. Like, is that what I should be doing? And so what I did was I opened up the voice activation that you had mentioned earlier, and I asked it stream of consciousness, like a paragraph full of maybe like 6, 7 sentences of me explaining, like, I'm just looking through my examples right now. The sentence, this paragraph is like very sort of silly. It's like talking to me in real life. It's like dumb, but I'm wondering how it is best to drive a four-wheel truck, a 4x4 pickup truck in the rain. It's pouring rain, and I'm driving a Toyota Tacoma from 2015 that's 4x4 that has four-wheel drive and a few other features. It's like all redundant because it's me speaking
Yeah.
out loud to the phone at 8 in the morning after a red eye. But it goes on and on and on in sentences and sentences.
Yeah.
And then it provided me with an answer verbally that then I can see the record of it here in writing. But it was very helpful to know, no, you're driving properly. You're not going to want to put on four-wheel drive, obviously. As long as your tires are properly inflated, this and that, you're absolutely fine. And it gave me a very long, thorough answer that I was able to listen to on the Bluetooth audio that I had connected already, um, which is great. So it just gave me peace of mind ahead of like a 2-hour drive that I was on as well. So I thought that was very helpful because you try to query Google, you're going to get 1,000 links, right? Page after page after page of options, and you can't really retain that while you're driving, right? So I was just able to respond to me voice activated and
Yeah.
provide me with like a pretty thorough answer.
Yeah.
It's cool.
That's a man. It is cool. The idea of like a voice assistant is very fun for questions where you're just like, I'm not sure on this thing. Uh, Being able to press a button and then just ask a question at any time. This is a cool. I think there'll probably be some sort of operating system in the next 3 years that's really cool that has a large language model built into it, which is going to be tight. I don't know. I don't know my day to day how much I need that, but uh, there's definitely instances where it'd be fun to have.
Hmm. Yeah,
Right.
it's
Uh,
fascinating. I'm just looking through all the examples I've used it of,
yeah.
all these chat
One thing
histories
that
you
I
mentioned.
use it nearly every day for is coding. I write code with ChatGPT. I'm currently trying to solve some errors and debug and make prompt perfect much faster by writing code and feeding in the logs from the app into ChatGPT, which is wild. It's something that it's like having, it's like I'm interning as a software engineer, and ChatGPT is like an expert, and all I have to do is properly lay out my questions on how to fix it, and it will just spit out answers for me if done the right way, which is crazy.
That's cool. It's a cool
Yeah.
way to think about it.
Yeah, and a year ago, I never would have thought that I could code this much without learning, like taking a course. Like you used to have to take a course. You would take a course online or buy a book and watch a bunch of videos and do a bunch of tutorials, and now you can do it live without having to do any of that, which is a completely new paradigm. I thought about this the other day. It's
Mm.
been 7 months, 6 months since GPT-4 came out for ChatGPT, which is like a much better code writer. And I think we're going to start seeing the like compounding effects of people who are getting really good with it, because those people are going to be able to do more and more. And, you know, we're in 6 months from now, the people who are using it regularly are going to be able to do infinitely more things than they used to be able to do, which is crazy.
Yeah, I love that thought. Um, yeah, it's exciting. Um, Definitely. So much more to say. I'm very encouraging. Also, you look so tan. I wanted to mention that. What happened to you? Where you been? You been on the top of a mountain sun tanning, dude?
Somebody else told me that over the weekend. I don't know. I think uh, I just have residually maintained my tan since the summer.
You're
But
glowing, dude.
yeah,
Fucking
also because
glowing,
it's
bro.
light on my desk. It's like overcast and rainy here, so there's a
That looks
nice
good.
light. Yeah,
You look great. Um, cool. Any other use cases before we hop on? I've used it a lot for the data analyst stuff. Excuse me, that we've mentioned countless
yeah.
times. But
There's one thing that I like, which is kind of a prompt engineering trick, which is like, say you have an email list of have like 10,000 people and you want to turn them all into customers. You can start from the end and be like, I have 10,000 emails on an email news list. I'm going to turn them all into paid customers over the course of 2 months. Work backwards with me and let's write a strategic plan to do that. And then save that, take each point, and then work backwards from there in a separate chat. You could do that with hypothetically anything. You start with the best possible goal, and then you work backwards with AI, and it'll give you, actionable things you can do, and it can also
wow,
write for you. It can look up stuff for you. Now it can make images for you. It can run code. It can write code. So if you wanted to do almost anything at this point, you can just work backwards from this is the ideal scenario, strategically work with me to build it, which I think is one of the
wow,
coolest use cases that I've messed around with. But it's hard to remember that you can do that because you can
yeah,
basically do any fucking thing that you want.
it's astounding. Yeah, seriously, that's amazing. That's cool.
Yeah.
So much of the day for work as a consultant is speaking to clients about how things aren't going well and trying to understand why. If you have a certain product as in this food space and people don't like it, sometimes
Yeah.
it's just that simple. There's a reason 80% of them fail. Um, but that's a really interesting. I hadn't actually thought about that. Starting at the goal and then working backwards from there is interesting to understand how it really rationally, unemotionally approaches getting to that end goal. It's cool.
Yeah. It's super cool.
Cool thought.
Almost
Um,
you could say.
Almost scary. I love it. Okay, cool. So let's pop into that then. Yeah, there's so much. Also for math, I really think that the last thing I'll say about this is like for math, like, a lot of the complicated financial projections for SaaS businesses are like algorithmic increases in things or the exhausting of like a certain amount of credits you get to something, and so we want to be able to forecast that stuff out. It's really I don't know how to do that math. I just don't know where to even start. But if I can explain and explain and explain and get better and better and better at explaining and prompting it in a way like prompt perfect, it's not going to like perfect it immediately because you're not necessarily explaining it in a way that's actually sensible. So it's like a lot of what it is that I'm doing is reiterating the same thing that I think is the same, but in reality it's more clear each and every time,
Yeah.
and trying to understand like how I can drive to the answer. So I do think that a lot of this is instead of spending time understanding how to query a search engine effectively and find the solution that I'm looking for, or find the thing that I'm looking for on the internet, or find the information that I think might be available on the internet, the answers to things, it's similar in that I'm like trying really hard to get it to understand my question. I think that
Yeah.
that's something that I don't really hear people talk enough about is how difficult it can be to get it to understand what you're actually trying to get answered. Because even if you use prompt perfect, if you don't explain it well enough to begin with, it's very easy to misunderstand what it is that you're actually looking for.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Might
So I
also
think we're getting better at that.
there's a lesson in there, like I think most people don't know exactly what they're trying to do, which is
It's a
why
good
most
point.
people
Yeah,
have
yeah,
with AI. They're like, what exactly do I want? But you have to, if you can figure that out, then you got the keys to the kingdom.
yeah, exactly. That's a good point. All right, cool. So, what do you think? This is something I'd come up with. I was wondering, what do you think people are most afraid of? I think it's job usurp, like people taking or AGI or AGI, or I'm sorry, AI taking their jobs.
Yeah.
Um, so, I want to like bifurcate this into two things. What do we think like people actually think is scary about AI, and then what do we think is scary as relative experts? I don't want to call myself an expert, although probably top 10% users of ChatGPT. um, yeah. So I think it's pretty easy. The first one, I guess, it's really about stealing jobs, taking people's jobs, getting people out of work.
I mean, a lot of people are worried that AI will jump from the machine it's on now just into the ether and start training itself and getting smarter and smarter and eventually decide that it doesn't need humans anymore. Kind of like a Terminator-esque future
Or
where,
Matrix. Yeah, Matrix
yeah,
too.
yeah, where the computers are like, the only reason we'd keep humans around is because we need their warmth or something.
That's
But
exactly what the Matrix. Have you seen the Matrix?
yeah, I've seen the Matrix. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
because we're all like in egg pods, right? And like
yeah,
literally creating energy for the yeah.
yeah. So I think there's a big fear around like, oh, what if AI can just start training itself and then it becomes way smarter than us and it decides, well, let's just kill all humans by, you know, taking over all the nukes and shooting them off, or uh, opening up all the dams in the world, or you know, building some sort of weapon we can't even think of yet, or making a bioengineering a disease and then having it just take out everybody in a weekend, is up there, I think, in some of the existential. It's called like existential AGI dread, which uh, I'm not an expert in controlling a computer program from jumping from machine to machine, but as far as I can tell right now, all it's all stop and go. You make a request, it answers the request, it stops and it waits on you. It's a computer program. It's not an active living thing right now.
Mhm, mhm,
So
mhm.
uh, I'm not particularly worried about that one, but I don't know. That feels like top level horrible outcomes. I think jobs most people talk about too. That's like the more day to day normal person is like, I don't want them to take my marketing job or customer service job or operations associate job. Um, what do you think about that?
Yeah, it sounds so true. All the best. All my a lot of my favorite movies are like the plot you just described. So The Matrix is more like a mind fuck where you like get there in the middle. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, this is what reality is. But um, you made me think of Ex Machina. It's a great, great movie. I think it
Yeah,
probably came out while we were in college, but maybe after. I'm not sure. But that's anthropomorphized, right? That's actually like a beautiful young woman who is the AI, who is the robot that embodies the AI noggin, like the intellectual capacity that is the explanation that you were just sort of diving into is like anthropomorphizing this beautiful woman, you know, and
yeah,
it's like amazing to think about um, what that could mean. I thought that was yeah, I love that movie. It's so good.
yeah. Would you have a wife that was just an AI robot?
Oh my gosh, I highly doubt it. How could you possibly like that makes no sense to me, right? It's like you start to think about it, it's like, I mean, if she looks like that, then maybe, and then you're like, wait, but no, because you can just literally switch her off, and it's like that defeats the whole part of like falling in love is that it's so fun to understand your own sort of shortcomings and complement that with other folks, you know. And so like if it's a robot, and then it becomes like it begs the question like what actually is the capability from like an intellectual perspective of a robot?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's fascinating.
yeah,
Um,
that's true.
do you?
No, not at all.
That's a yes. That's a yes for
No, but
sure.
I would.
Anybody to answer that quickly?
No, what I would do is I would have 5 to 8 robot boys that are like wearing backwards flat brim caps that are just my homies, and I would text them. They'd really just be locked up in the garage, but I'd text them and be like, "Yeah, man, you trying to go catch the game tonight?" But text back be like, "I don't know, I'm pretty busy." And I would be like, "Come on, man, like you gotta come out, like leave." And he's like, "The wife and kids," and I'm like, "No." And the next thing you know, my robot homie comes out, we hang out.
Yeah, oh my god, it's so good. Oh, I love it so much. It's so ironic. It's not ironic. It's like last week you'd spoken about how your hot take was that guys like watch sports to have friendships with guys. Your point is that you can have AGI friends who would
AGI,
come watch the game with you.
yeah, that would actually
Oh, that's so
be.
fucking good.
It is funny, yeah.
Oh
No,
god,
I do think there's gonna be like
that
a
tickles me.
that is the funniest answer I could think of. But, I do think there's, like, gonna start to be social clubs over the next decade or so that, like, where people go with nothing, with no technology and, like, no entertainment, where people actually go to socialize themselves. Because I think
Sick.
especially the generation of kids under us, they don't hang out with people enough, and, there's something there. So,
Yeah.
I will not have an AI partner, or I don't know, I might have one AI friend, we'll see.
No, for sure, dude. I
Definitely
was
a
I was I was I'm sorry.
like a servant, an indentured servant, AI robot.
That's another plot to some amazing movies and books. It's like, is it
Yeah,
ethically okay to have a slave that's AI just because it's not human?
yeah.
That's sort of the plot of Gattaca, which is a really interesting. I studied existential philosophy in college, and we watched for one of our courses this movie. We watched every episode. Like, you think you had to watch it at home? Oh, so you and I watched them actually.
No, it's
We watched them
Battlestar
together.
Galactica is what you're
Oh
thinking.
yes, 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 yes. That's what it was. Yes.
Yeah. Fascinating
Oh my
movie.
god.
Fascinating.
Really fascinating.
Yeah.
Long too. It's like 11 seasons. I'm stupid, but I had to watch them for class, and Eric was my roommate, so we watched them together. And it was like, this is fucking crazy because people are like madly in love with robots and having sexual relations with them, and it's like completely makes sense because from a perspective of a viewer, they look and act like people, so you don't even know the difference between the two, which is kind of the point. And so then it's like, is it okay to have a slave or an indentured servant? Like, what? I mean, no, but if it's a robot, still no. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's fascinating. It's so fun. I love that
It
shit.
is
It's cool.
Yeah, it's wild. It is, I think Tesla's working, I forget what they're called. They're like humanoid robot sort of things,
Mhm.
but Tesla's one of the big drivers of that. There's a couple other companies that are basically building things that have the capability to act and move like humans. And I
Like
think
Boston Dynamics is one, yeah.
as they connect that with an actual large language model that can comprehend things in natural language, it's gonna be wild.
Yeah,
Um,
really cool. I'm excited for that. I think it's great. I think the last thing we should do is stop that sort of thing. I think it's amazing.
yeah, it'll definitely change the landscape of like in San Francisco, they have this like big homeless population that lives on the street, and like I think cops sometimes don't like going into those areas, and they kind of get taken over. Same with LA, but you have fucking robot cops walking into places, and people will change their perspective of like, can we send in a fleet of 25 robots to go clean up the streets of San
Oh,
Francisco and
that's
LA?
so
Like,
interesting.
yeah, you get into a weird territory that uh, we're not
Yeah,
far off from. It's
that's
not
so interesting. What a
it's
great,
closer
I'd never thought about that.
to yesterday.
Yeah. These questions are so interesting,
Yeah.
endlessly interesting. And I don't think that there's a right answer. That's the best part. I don't know. I think it's cool. So what do you think actually, so that's a good framing then. So what are you afraid of?
What am I actually afraid of? It's a good question. I'm not super afraid.
I love it. Neither am I. But like, if you had to choose something that's like frightening, or you think that there's actually cause for concern, because what we're talking about is like actually exciting. I think we agree upon. But then with this, it's like the question is more like, are there things that people are sleeping on, or ideas that people are sleeping on that you think are actually cause for concern? Maybe.
Yeah, I see this one that happens a lot now where you can take this video of me and dub over my lips with a voice clone and say completely different things. So I've actually seen videos pop up on social that are Warren Buffett. And he's like, I never do this, but I'm giving away $50,000. Go to this link. And it looks like Warren Buffett and he's doing it. Those already exist. There's so many people already trying to cash in on it. So I guess creating saying things that people would never say to get outcomes that uh, we don't necessarily want as people. Like, I think the scamming market's going to get way worse. It's already kind
Hmm.
of crazy, like the amount of like the high level that scammers go to steal from other people. So I think, theft and people doing things that they shouldn't be doing to steal money and time from other people is going to be highly increased over the next 5 years.
That's so interesting. I hadn't really thought about it that way, but I
Yeah,
like that. I think it's a good answer.
it worries
My
me.
da-
Yeah,
yeah, my dad brought that up last night. Actually, we were talking about just in general, like what I'm excited about right now, and it's a lot more excitement than like fright, to be honest. And he was just saying how common it is in the law journals that he subscribes to as an attorney. This is coming up 4 or 5 times a day. He was saying in the email newsletters that he gets, which is a lot, obviously. And he was saying the only real concern that he has is that people would be able to fake, like do deep fake style things, which is pretty much exactly what you just said, which is so interesting.
yeah. It's basically here. It's,
Yeah,
I mean, it's not the best. I can tell when I see it. Also, I just know, like Warren Buffett's not going to be saying that. Uh, People already do that with. You'll see things that are like fake tweets, screenshots of fake tweets from Elon Musk with a link to go claim something. I'm like, dude, I'm
yeah,
not falling for that. If I was a
yeah,
19-year-old kid, though, I might fall for it.
yeah.
I don't know.
Or 14, 19 is the one thing, but being 13 or 14 or 9, way
Yeah,
easier. Like it's easier, way easier to imagine. Or my 90-year-old grandmother. Um,
yeah.
Very easy to fall for stupid scams. She had one recently where they had called her and told her that I'm in jail and I needed bail. And she, the last, not the last person, but she is not on top of my list for people to call if I'm
Yeah.
in jail. And she was completely convinced that it was me. Um, and they had convinced her by saying that my nose was broken in the accident, in like a car accident, and so I was in jail because I'd hit somebody. It's just like this really long, drawn out story, and they had convinced her that it was me because it was my nose is broken, so my voice sounded different. So she'd call
Wow.
me in tears. But I was on phone for work, and so I ignored the phone call because I couldn't. I could have, but I didn't. I just figured she was fine. She just wanted to
Yeah.
catch up. And then I had like a frantic email or a voicemail from her. And I called her later. I was like, "What's up?" She's like, "I thought you were in jail." I was like, "What are you talking about?" And for like 2 weeks, she was upset, really like emotionally upset by it
Yeah.
because these people had convinced her. And even though I was sitting in a house, I was completely fine, nothing further from the truth. I wasn't even driving, but like completely and totally convinced her that it was me. It's terrible.
It's terrible, man. I hate that. That's like real human pain that people will cause with shit like that.
Yeah.
That I think's only gonna it'll be increased over the next few years.
Yeah. Interestingly, there is a technology that solves for the validation of authenticity,
Mm.
but people don't like it. It's a very unsexy, so I won't even talk about
Yeah.
it.
What are you most scared of? Like actually though. Or
I don't know. I
worried.
think,
Doesn't have to be scared.
yeah, it's tough. I really do agree with you that I think that most of like the fright is completely unfounded. I think that it's just like excited nothingness that like my dad was saying how like it's really tough to imagine that authors or we're talking about the writer's strike
Yeah.
and how it's tough. It's just tough for these people, and it's important for people to be involved in that because it shows solidarity. But at the same time, um, I don't even know. That's a tough one. But ultimately, I was just saying how I think that it misses the point of what AI can provide. It's not a replacement from my perspective of what those writers provide in terms of like their actual creativity. It's much more interesting for me to think about it as a new alternative. It's a new option for me to consume media. And so
Yeah.
we've mentioned it before, and I'll mention it again. I think it's fascinating. If I have a child and I'm able, or even anybody, and I'm able to explain to them, I'm working through the story with them, and they are interested in. I've got a boy and a girl, and the boy was interested in flying, and the girl's interested in the ocean. I can make the story tailored for the ocean and tailored for flying, right? And like the ability to have a generative AI that allows for me to like work in iteration with it, I think
Yeah.
is incredibly exciting. And I think that the idea that it's going to replace people is unfounded because it just can create new media or new mediums.
Yeah. I think
Um,
they should, as a writer, you could also be like, I'm a few years away from being able to cut out the studio and make an entire movie that's cut and shot in a way very cheaply where I don't need
Yeah.
$100 million to make this thing, and I can create more of them. And if they're actually of quality and, hit all the right notes. I think a big thing with the writer strike is they're worried that studios are just going to outsource a lot of the writing because it would be way cheaper to people who use
Yeah.
AI.
But in reality, I just don't think that's, do you think it's realistic?
I think it's realistic that they would try to outsource the writing of an entire movie. I
Yeah.
don't know.
You can try all you want. I can try to fly. It
Yeah,
doesn't mean I want to fly.
yeah. I mean, I can ask ChatGPT how to fly a damn plane, but I'm not gonna know until I actually get there if I'm good at it. And uh, I will say a lot of blockbuster movies don't have that great of scripts and are pretty formulaic. So
Yes.
uh, I don't know if
Yeah, that's a good point.
yeah, and I like watching them sometimes because they're funny. It's funny to see something that's really bad, uh,
Yeah.
and
I
you get
recently watched John Wick on a flight, and it was fucking. It's like silly. It's almost like Die Hard, but it's fun. That's a fun movie. I enjoyed it.
yeah. But I think you still need people to create good ideas and to carry through on them. So I wouldn't be as worried about not having the use of AI in script writing. I probably wouldn't be as safe, but it's not my livelihood. So I
Yeah,
get,
it's true.
yeah, I got a right to fight it. But I'll be excited one day when I can create like little sketches that actually look real, like with a really good couple of prompts, write an entire
Yeah, it'd be
sketch and
fun.
show. Yeah, it'd be fucking wild.
Yeah. All right, cool. I completely dodged the question because I don't know a good answer. I liked your answer a lot. I think that's probably the most realistic fear. I think is the one that you'd expressed. So I don't have any better one than that. That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, it's Roland already here, so it's kind
Yeah.
of my
Do you have any hot takes this week, my friend?
ooh hot potato. I don't actually, that I can think of it. The
Like
one
that's absolutely fine.
maybe we've mentioned it 1,000 times, but I heard it today in a talk that was it's much more likely that somebody who's good with AI is going to replace you and your job, not just AI. So maybe just another PSA to go use AI in your daily day-to-day routine or for a side project because it'll put you on a good path far ahead of those who aren't doing it. How
Yeah.
about you?
Even just to ideate with, it's interesting. It's fun. Like at the very least, just like mess around with it, and it's free. And if you use Bing, you can get access to GPT-4, which is the newest model from OpenAI, for free.
Yeah, true that.
Um, and obviously Bing with browsing, which is another plugin. I'm sorry, another beta feature that's on OpenAI. But um, yeah, I don't know. Um, I had so many. I think it's important. I think one of the things I was thinking about, which we had actually even like touched on earlier accidentally, was the importance of spending time with people. I think it's very easy. You had sent me a screenshot of a chat you had joined to like a webinar style thing with like 6 or 7 or 4 people on a panel and then 4 or 5 people on like the little boxes up top. And it was like, this is so 2020 or 2021 or whatever it was that the COVID
Yeah,
19 thing had happened. And it's so true. And like I'd worked for a company that really took advantage of that at the time. And so there's a lot. Yeah, I mean, I sit at home all day. And work. It's fun, but at the same time, it's really fun for me also to step outside and take phone calls outside. And not that I really talk to people literally physically all that much. I like talk to people at the deli and stuff, like coffee shops. But if I'm on the phone with somebody, I'm literally talking to them the whole time. So I'm like even abstracted away from the reality that I'm like physically in. But it's still very fun to just be outside around people and like paying little compliments to folks. Like somebody had cool shoes on earlier, and I told them, "Hey, dude, you got great." Like I was like, "Cool shoes." I walked by. He's like, "Oh, cool, thanks, man." I was like, "Yeah, dude."
look,
Yeah.
baby.
They're not like they don't wear the shoes because they live in a bubble. They wear the shoes because they live in New York City and they won't be able to see them, right? So I think
Yeah,
it's fun to like just to get a little bit of positive affirmation, put it out there.
yeah.
Not much of a hot take. Very, very stupid metaphysical anthropomorphic, like silly, silly stuff. But that's all I got.
Nice, dude. No, I like it. That's not stupid at all. Sweet. I think that's a
Yeah.
wrap.
I think so too. Awesome. All right. Shout out to Josiah Soren. Classic. Bringing him in, bringing him out. And yeah, we'll see you here next week.
All right, see you then.
All right. Also, you should look forward to we're going to record one in person the first week of December. I can't wait. We have
Yeah,
to do it in that room or on a couch somewhere in your house. I can't wait.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a logistical nightmare to figure that out.
I can't wait. It's be so fun.
Oh,
Yeah, dude, it's be like literally a wrestling episode. Just me, Eric, and I wrestling the whole time.
yeah. Dude, episode 29. Yeah, we're getting up there. Let's fucking do
I
it.
know. Yeah, it's be like 34 or something like that. Yeah, it's awesome. Or 35. I don't
I thought it's
know.
29.
Awesome.
It says 29 at the top.
Oh, I meant that episode that we do while we're together will be like 30 something, 35 ish.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
This is some hot
All right, cool.
podcast we're doing right now.
Yeah, exactly. I love it, dude.
Which
Awesome.
episode is it?
Yeah. All right, cool. All right. See you soon, brother.
All right, see ya.